Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Friday, a rainy Friday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Fran Duffy in the middle, Zach Berman on the right. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited for the show. It's April 11th. This is creeping up on us here, right? The draft is fewer than two. We're in the 2 week range here.
Who of the three of us do you feel like is feeling the crunch of time bigger? There is you, who is trying to finish a book over the next week. There is
Yeah.
Fran, who is trying to finish doing as many guys as possible before the draft. And there is me, who has a baby due in 10
Yeah,
minutes.
I would say definitely you, because your life changes the most dramatically, right? Now, Fran goes right back onto the cycle. I don't know when, but at some point, Fran goes right into the 26 class, right? So I probably get the most, like, there's the most light at the end of my tunnel of the three of us. There's no light at the end of yours. You're going.
Yeah, but I think we all know, Zach, that no matter when you exit that tunnel, you are only entering another tunnel right away.
Yeah, but I'm doing it by choice. So, I enjoy being in tunnels.
Okay, fair enough. Fran, how are you, my friend?
Doing good, yeah. I was I watched our friend Q Robinson, that pass rusher from Alabama.
Oh, your boy. The profile that you liked.
Nice player, yeah. Well, we can talk about him at another time. But it was just getting a couple films done this morning, a couple tapes done, some calls in the middle of the day. So yeah, we're chugging along.
Fantastic. Well, today we're going to continue our focus on the offensive line after the deep dive with Brandon Thorne yesterday. We will pivot a little bit towards the interior offensive lineman, but I think we can make it a larger conversation. This is a question I was thinking about, Fran, and it's probably overthinking it. But does the way that the offense changed last year, do you think that in any way changes the kind of offensive lineman that you would want to bring in to this offense, if indeed you are trying to draft someone who can start right away?
No, just because I think that the unusual traits, right? I think the reason why the reason why Jeff Stoutland wants guys that have those unique traits is that it allows them to basically do whatever they want offensively. If you want to be a pass happy team, and we're going to put a lot on you from, because pass protection is not easy for offensive linemen. That's why a lot of offensive linemen prefer the run game. I think a lot of people think of it as, oh, they want to be their aggressors and they want to go. It's more like, pass protection is hard. You have guys coming into you, trying to attack you as opposed to, you going on the aggressive. So you want those unique athletes so that you can hold up in pass protection over a long period of time. But then if they want to be able to mash people and go at you on the ground, you have that versatility as well. And so I don't think that the change in course last year from a run game focus, I don't think that that's going to dictate how they view offensive linemen now.
I want big. I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to just stay here for a second. Like, I mean, one of the big mistakes you could make as any organization is trying to pair draft picks to specific schemes, because obviously, like, over the course of a rookie contract, there's a good chance that scheme is going to turn over. That's less the case with the Eagles, especially knowing that Jeff Stoutland is not going anywhere. But is there one of the two, Fran, that you think is easier to improve, run blocking versus pass blocking? Or would you, let's say there's a tie on the grade, would you rather have a guy like Donovan Jackson, for instance, who you have as like a more polished pass protector, you want a little bit more from him in the run game, versus, I don't know, who would be a prospect of similar rating, who is a beast in the run game, but you're going to have to coach him up as a pass protector?
Yeah, it really comes down to like you have to take it almost to like the next level as to the why guys are bad in one area or the other. Because if it's technique focused in the run game, where it's like, all right, like, hey, like their hands are wide, their pad level's bad, those kinds of things. There are some coaches say, oh yeah, like mini camp, we'll get that fixed, right? But then if it's something where like this guy's just not powerful, he doesn't have like the sand in his pants and the explosiveness to be able to move guys off the ball, that takes a lot longer to correct. It can get corrected theoretically if the guy's got the body type to be able to handle adding more weight and improving in that way. But it takes longer. The way that it's been described to me is that if you want a guy that needs to get stronger, like anchor wise, like pass protection, taking on a bull rush, that can take like roundabout. Everyone's different, but roundabout, that's like a year fix. So maybe by year 2, the anchor's where it needs to be. Whereas power, that's like 2+ year fix. So so that's one thing that I would say for that. But then
strength is stopping someone from moving you. Power is moving someone else.
Correct. Yeah. So, but then the thing is, in pass protection, if the anchor's the question, like we talked about, like Josh Connerly yesterday, right? Like if Josh Connerly, I'm worried about the anchor. That can get fixed. If a guy's got bad feet, that's probably not getting fixed, right? So that's like a limitation that's out of his control. So, but if it's footwork and like, oh, like he clicks his heels together and he can get caught with a tight base, which Connerly also can do, that can get fixed, right? So it just comes down to what is fixable and what's not.
Okay, go ahead, Zach.
And someone has a follow up. So this is a good transition. Is that Bo mentioned Jeff Stoutland's going to be here, and I'm always one on these shows this year, last year, previous years to try to downplay the idea of like the coaching staff has a connection with this player or the coaching staff likes this player because Howie's running the draft, right? Especially early in the draft. But is it fair to say, based on kind of the way you sense it, that offensive line is, I don't want to say the one spot, but is a spot where the position coach has an outsized role in who they draft?
I mean, every coach's voice carries weight. The way that I would say it is that some coaches are very vocal about it, right? Some coaches have the track record of development. Obviously we've heard about it with Stout. We've heard about it with Jeremiah Washburn, right? Where there are coaches where, Howie Roseman, the scouts, it's not just here in Philadelphia, but, teams across the league where you have trust and faith in your coaches to be able to get the most out of players. But then you're going to have other coaches where you don't have that same emphasis. I would say too, that to me personally, and I get that why it can get spun in a negative connotation. I do think that it is incumbent upon the general manager and upon the front office to serve the coaches in this way, that you want to give them players that they're, because if a coach hates a player, like you go in and that's where the relationship starts. To me, like that, you're not helping anybody. They're not helping the player. You're not helping the team. If the coach isn't bought in, then that's a tough sell across the board. So I get that there's like an angle of like, oh, it's self-preservation. And now if it doesn't work out, you can point to the coaches. But to me, I just think that that's the better course of action for the general manager and for the front office.
I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised you think that way because I tend to view it like when the coaches get involved, it's like when a consultant comes to a company, and you've been putting in all this work, then the consultant's like, you should do X, Y, and Z. Like the scouts, the executives, they're watching these guys all year. They're doing this work. The coaches start the process in February, and for them to say, "Oh no, I like player X," like I feel as that's what the scouts and front office job is to do.
Well, it's not necessarily like, oh, we're only going to take the coaches' rankings. It's more getting an understanding of like, all right, like coach wise, like red light, green light, right? Like, oh, like I'm not working with this guy, or like, oh yeah, I would really like to work with this guy. All the coaches are going to have their own write ups and how they stack the board, but you have to keep in mind too. It's not just like assistant coaches and coordinators, but when players come in on 30 visits or, you go to the combine, you're going to have like strength staff meet with them. You're going to have, when they come in on the 30 visits, like the training staff, all these different touch points. And so, Howie Roseman and general managers across the league, you're taking all of that info everywhere you can and trying to find that consensus.
It is a very difficult needle to thread. And it's a really like fascinating conversation. All of it presented by the good folks at TrueMark Financial Credit Union, by the way. But like, you can't draft for a scheme for a coach, but you also don't want to bring in a player who, as you're saying, Fran, is not going to get the full investment or full development plan of the Eagles. There are many examples over the years, and some of it is finger pointing, right? But it's like, for instance, Davion Taylor, right? This is a guy who is going to be a project, and when you have a guy who is going to be a project, you need full buy-in. And the whispers behind the scenes were like early on, Ken Flagel didn't like him that much, right? Like whether that's true or not, we don't know. But like if that's the case, that's not you are now like wasting the draft pick, right? So it is important to get all of that information and build the development plan. And it's also really interesting from like the stuff that you're talking about, like Jalix Hunt making a big leap in year one, and Nolan Smith making a big leap in year one. And I was thinking about this the other day, Zach, when you brought up the Deion Walker anonymous scout quote, right? Like you're throwing up your hands like, I don't know what to do with him. The Eagles will probably get him and he'll turn into a Pro Bowler. Like, and there have been like other passive comments like that made about other prospects that I've heard throughout this draft process. And it's so silly. It's said in such a throwaway manner, like, oh, the Eagles are just flipping coins and they keep getting heads. What are we supposed to do about it? It's not appreciating the fact that there is a lot of work going into the fact that they have done this. It's like not giving them enough credit for it. It's like, oh, well, we're not good enough at doing that, but the Eagles could probably do it.
It's a great point. And I heard a Jake Rosenberg podcast over it was back earlier this season when he said kind of the Eagles don't get enough credit for their player development program and the amount of work and attention that they do and how that's a competitive advantage that they have. And the reason I respected that comment is because like that's not necessarily Jake's domain, right? That's Jake observing it from being there. So he has no like vested interest. He's in the player development program per se. He sees how it's providing the team a competitive advantage, and there's enough anecdotal evidence of player development over the years, whether it's cultural. You heard when the Bears passed on Jalen Carter. One of the things I heard from talking to people in Chicago is, they don't feel like they have the infrastructure in place or the culture in place that the Eagles do for Jalen Carter. And I'm like, then shame on you, right? Like,
yeah, what an own goal.
If you're passing on a great player because you don't feel you can control him, like that's your problem. That's not the player. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and the other aspect of it too, that I would think of as a similar kind of situation is the Baltimore Ravens. There's like a funny like saying, like axiom that goes around when it comes to Baltimore in the draft is like good players always fall to Baltimore. And it's because they do a good job of targeting where they can find value on players. This guy didn't test well, or maybe someone has a character question about this guy. Like Ray Lewis was viewed that way. Ed Reed was viewed that way. How many players we were talking the other day about on the draft show about players like Kyle Hamilton like didn't test as well as they thought. And that's why Malachi Starks is falling to them in every single mock draft. Right? They consistently find ways to tweak the margins in their favor to find value adds in the draft.
Yeah, well said. All right. Before we get going, a couple things to remind you about. First of all, do your part for us. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. If you are in the Philadelphia area, next Thursday night at J.D. McGillicuddy's, 6 p.m., we've got the Draft Summit. You can talk draft with us live. Cuz and Fran are going to be there. I will be there, baby pending. Should be a fun event. And then, of course, a week after that is round one of the draft, and we are going to be live throughout the entire draft here on night 1, night 2, all of day 3. Should be a lot of fun. Should get pretty loopy. We're looking forward to it. And then, of course, make sure that you become a diehard so you can read the diehard draft guide. We've got a new deal that's coming up. Fantastic. And you get access to the Eagles 100. Okay, we've given our plugs. Let's get down. Get down to basics here. Now, Zach, I'm going to start with you. Just from a continuing to think about what do the Eagles want to do early in this draft. How likely do you think offensive line is early on?
I think it's more likely one of the players we were discussing yesterday, a player who projects as a tackle who can play guard, than kind of the genre we're on today, which is more interior specific early in the draft. Now, there can always be a trade back and then the second round. Like Landon Dickerson was taken top of second round, and that's been terrific value for the Eagles. But I think that it's more likely that if you're talking about 32 or even anywhere, let's say from 25 to 50, which is I think the range that their first pick will be, 25 to 50, then my guess is that's someone who ultimately projects as a tackle but has the versatility to play guard, than more of a guard center type.
It is a little bit on my radar as I was thinking about all their guys who have come into visits. Nick Scorton was at the Eagles facility yesterday. Took a picture with Brandon Graham, and you look down this list of guys. T.J. Sanders, Nick Scorton, Femi Oladejo, Donovan Jackson, Donovan Ezeraku, Maxwell Harrison, Josh Connerly. You don't see anybody on that list who are like, oh, this is someone we might want to trade up for if they fall to 25, right? It seems to me that they are bringing in guys who, like, we really want to trade down. And, like, we're hoping that some of these guys will be there in the middle of the second round, and maybe we can get, 2 mid-second round picks and 2 mid-third round picks out of it instead of 1, 2, 3. Which, given what we've heard about the strength of this class, Fran, that it's there's a nice 2 players at the top, and then it's kind of flat for like a round and a half. It sort of seems to me that that's what they're signaling.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few of those names you rifled off there. Like Hairston, I think, is going to go round 1. Ezeraku, I feel like, is a fringe. Like
probably. Connerly,
right?
probably.
Exactly.
Like,
yes. Yep. Connerly,
Scorton, maybe,
deal.
but like,
yep.
not definitely.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And so I think that's definitely the waters they seem to be fishing in. But I mean, picking at 32, I guess it would stand to reason that would be the case. Yeah, I would agree with you with that sentiment.
I actually have a devil's advocate view on that.
Okay.
There's 2 thoughts here. First off, there's a thought that I came into the show with that I'll get to next. But my direct response to you there is, if you're an agent of a player who you think is going to go in the top 20, then you don't want to send him to Philadelphia on a visit. Even if the Eagles are saying we might trade up, you don't want to signal to the league that there's a chance this guy's going to be available at 32.
Good point.
And I recall talking to Lane Johnson's agent, Ken Sarnoff, after the fact, not leading up to it, but after the fact, where you're going from city to city, and I think Lane was going from Jacksonville to Philly, and he had to go to New York, and he said to cancel the visit. He's like, I'm not falling to the Jets, right? Don't send me to there. But my second thought is I've seen, and this might be media speculation, but it might have some merit, is because of the way this draft is, that the traditional draft trade chart or draft value chart might not be as applicable this year. That teams might be willing to trade down for less than it's taken in the past. And when I hear that, just knowing Howie Roseman, that signals to me that he might be more apt to trade up. If he thinks he can get 25 at a lower price than it will typically take to get from 32 to 25, then just from a value-based argument, he could do that. Now, to the Andre Dillard example, you don't want to be in a situation where there's a guy who slips, you haven't done your homework on him, but it could just be that they're not signaling to the league, either on the player side or the team side, that that's what's going to happen.
It is also, we have to say, incomplete information. We don't have all 30. There could be guys like that. And if the Eagles do have it within them for the conversation you're talking about, to be like, hey, listen, this is one that we do not want out there. And if we want to trade up for your guy, even if you don't, it doesn't benefit you to get this out there because we're at 32, and it doesn't benefit us if we want to trade up. So that is also possible.
Yeah, there was an example last year where you told me, you didn't have it to the point where you could release it to the public, or you felt like comfortable with it, that they had this guy in. You can't say it, but they had this guy in, and it really seemed it was someone who we knew they were interested in, but it seemed they clearly did not want that out there for whatever reason. And so that
I don't even remember this for what it's worth.
Yeah, I will text you. I'm going to text you both the name right now. But yeah, so that does happen. And by the way, some of these visits, most of the visits here are like the agent puts it out there for a specific reason.
Drake May.
No. Behind the scenes, for instance, like sometimes you see a reporter say these 3 guys are visiting such and such teams, and then I can literally go into the database that I have of the agents, go to edit find, and they all have the same agent, right? So the agent's putting out that information specifically. The other thing, and this is cool, is this is covering football in 2025 or 2025, is that players will just post on Instagram where they are, right? So, yesterday Nick Scorton posted the picture with him and Brandon Graham together, and that's kind of how we all saw that he was there. So there's various ways this could come out as well.
All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to get into some of these guys, starting with Tyler Booker, who is probably the only interior offensive lineman who is a realistic possibility for the Eagles at 32. Empire Today, baby. We're talking about floors and ceilings in the NFL draft. Well, we're only focused on floors at Empire Today because just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. they basically just live with their heads down because they don't even look around them. All they're focused on is floors at Empire Today. That's how you can spot an Empire Today employee, someone who's just never looking up. They're always looking down because that's all they care about is floors. Now, what else do? They come to you. You don't have to go to them. So instead of this guesswork about what is this new flooring going to look like in your space, no. They're going to come to you and show you in your space the different options, and you can find out what you like best. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to you, and you can get precise measurements taken and have all your questions answered so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So, schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Let's now hear from our friends at Bet Parks Casino, because we know you can go over right up into Bucks County, close to anywhere, and you can go and experience Bet Parks Casino. You can go and check out the Excite Center. But do you know, Zach is excited about the remote show here that we're doing where we're at home. You can experience Bet Parks Online Casino. You can get all the great things you get by going there and playing all the games that we love to play in person. You've got the pop culture slots. You've got roulette. You've got cards. You've got the dice games. All of those can be played and more on the Bet Parks app. Parks Online Casino has the games that you love, whether you're at home or on the go. Download the Bet Parks app and create an account today to receive an offer that you just cannot pass up. New users are now eligible to receive up to $1,000 back if you are down in the first 24 hours after signing up. Bet Parks Online Casino is available up there to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan residents. Terms and conditions apply. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Must be 21 and over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, let's get into it now as we move on to the offensive lineman. And we will get to your super chat, Shay, about Bean Girl and this dilemma that you have. We'll get to that at the end of the show. That could even be an overtime situation. But let's start with the offensive lineman. Tyler Booker. Now, Fran, you sent us a nice list of guys that we didn't quite talk about with Brandon Thorne yesterday. And so some of these guys are maybe tackle guard hybrids. Some of them are guard center hybrids. But Tyler Booker from Alabama is a guard through and through. He is an interesting prospect. He is the youngest of all, really any of the good offensive line prospects in this draft. He's going to be just 21 as a rookie, 6'4.5", 321. He's got long arms, big hands, great starting experience. Everything you hear about him, Fran, is that he's like an A-plus leader and stuff off the field. Did not test very well at the combine. What do you see in Tyler Booker? And most importantly, do you think that he would be a Stoutland type?
Definitely. From when you're talking about the unique traits, I mean, this guy is 6'5", 320 pounds, outstanding length, 34.5-inch arms, which would be good for a tackle, much less for a guard. When you're looking at Booker, he is a bully on contact. He's got the pop to displace defenders at the point of attack. He's got excellent play strength, his power. So we talked about like the difference between both. When you have both, that's when you're really cooking with gas, and Booker absolutely has that. Look, on film, at best, I saw this was an average athlete, so I was not, all that surprised by the times that didn't look great. Really, the only one that was like truly alarming though was the 10-yard split, and that in 196, that's a bad number, no matter how big you are. But the shuttle times, the 796 and 484 in the short shuttle for a guy who's 320 pounds, that's fine. You're checking the box there. Even the jumps, 94 inches in the broad's a bad number on its face, but for a guy that big, I think that's just fine. I think when you're looking at Tyler Booker, I mean, he is a pure people mover. I think he shows up fine in pass protection. The pre-snap recognition of where blitzes are coming from. You see him pointing out to the center and to the quarterback, like, nope, look here, look there, look there, pointing stuff out beforehand, which is impressive for a young player. His eyes always seem to be in the right place. Independent hand usage in terms of just keeping pass rushers at bay. He drops his anchor well. to me, like just no holes in this guy's game. If you want to look at the athletic profile, that would be it. But when I'm looking at my report, it's all blue, and across the board. And the intangibles aspect, things obviously look when you look at how the season went for Alabama last year, there were highs and lows. And when they went into their lows, it was Tyler Booker who was like the ringleader, like calling the players only meetings and really kind of setting the tone from that standpoint. I know Daniel Jeremiah, the one thing that he had shared over the course of this offseason was that the quote that he got from a scout was that he was like the Will Anderson of their offense in terms of their leadership. And to me, like if you know like how Will Anderson was viewed at Alabama and what he's been for DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans so far, I think that speaks volumes. So to me, like Tyler Booker, if you got him at 32, I would view that as a steal personally. I think he's one of the best players in the draft. I love his film.
And so, Zach, what do you think about the possibility of a guard only pick at 32?
I don't think that's the direction they're going to go, but I hear Fran's point in terms of if the value screaming off the page, right? If it's a ready-made player with rare characteristics, competitive profile, I can see. You say you get a
poor Tyler Steen. His job gets taken by a guy who was a freshman when he was at Alabama.
But like offensive guard now is turning into a $20 million position for top of the league, and that's one way that you like to frame a first round pick is the delta in value that you get for a high level starter, and kind of what that player's worth. I really like when Fran kind of gives the salary range for the player basically, right? And like if Tyler Booker can be a Pro Bowl player, I mean that's a $15-20 million a year player. So that's good value at 32. But I still think that, we talked about Kelvin Banks yesterday, like a player who can potentially play tackle. Maybe Booker can. Booker has one start at left tackle. But I think that would probably be more the way they would go is a guard tackle.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how it's all graded, right? Like, I don't think that they would drop down a tier to take, a Kelvin Banks if they grade Tyler Booker higher than that. I think we just have to remind ourselves that like at 32 or 40, whatever it is when they pick, they don't have their pick of the litter, right? Exactly. And so ideally you would have an edge or a tackle or a defensive tackle who you really like, but absent that, like, would you rather take the guy who is their number one guard, or would you rather take their sixth edge, a guy who they view as like having a second round grade? I think in that case, I think they would stay true to their board. But the way that they have built the roster heading into the draft, having Steen, having Kenyon Green now, you've brought in Matt Pryor and Kendall Lamb. It does feel like tackle is the thing that they would prefer. But again, beggars can't be choosers here.
It's a great point, and it's actually something I heard going back to the 2018 draft when the Eagles took Goddard. And like one of the arguments that I heard is you can either get the player that you feel is like the best tight end in the draft. Now I know Gesicki and Hurst were in that class as well. I think the Eagles really liked Dallas Goedert in that group. But you can either get like your top tight end, or you can get like your 12th wide receiver or your 4th running back, right? And so that's a great point that the best player at his position probably has more value than like the 8th guy at his position.
Were you going to say something, Fran?
Yeah, I was going to say, just looking at this is where, to your point, Bo, like the horizontal board. That's why when I put out the big board a few weeks ago, and I'm going to have the updated version draft week, the teams work off of a horizontal board for this reason, because while I have Tyler Booker, he's rated as my, let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, he's my 12th graded overall player in this class. But if you go on the horizontal board, here are everybody he's on the same tier with: Ashton Genty, Tetero McMillan, Tyler Warren, Josh Simmons, Ariante Ersery, Gray Zabel, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, Michael Williams, Will Johnson, Savon Revel, Malachi Starks, and Nick Emanwari. Right. So there are a lot of really talented players in there, but let's say it's Tyler Booker versus, Ariante Ersery, who is a proven tackle. I think Booker is a better player, like head above him. Like I think he's a better player, but if you're talking in terms of like positional value and the overall grade, I think that's where Ersery he gets up to that same tier. That's where it gets to be a tricky conversation. But you might look at it versus like Michael Williams and say, all right, well, we're going to go with the edge rusher here. We're going to go with Walter Nolan here. We're going to go with, who insert player. So I think at the end of the day, that's why the horizontal board is so valuable.
Okay, let's keep working our way down these guys. Gray Zabel, who has been a Fran Duffy favorite since the beginning from North Dakota State. You're talking about a guy with theoretical 5-position versatility, but has played a few positions in college and throughout the draft process. 6'6", 312, had a big old 36.5-inch vertical leap. This is a player that you really like.
Yeah, I've going back to the first time I watched him, which was after the opener. They played Colorado in the opener, one of the first games of the season. I want to say it was like a Thursday night, and I watched it first thing Saturday morning. I took the tablet out, and I'm like, all right, let me plug in some Gray Zabel film. And I said, this guy reminds me of Graham Barton, who was a first-round pick by the Tampa Bay Bucks last year. Ended up having a really good rookie season as the starting center. He was the left tackle at Duke for the previous 3 years. And when you look at Zabel, he's extremely athletic. He's extremely aggressive. I love the versatility. He's played all 5 positions in his career. When you go to the Senior Bowl, he played up and down the line of scrimmage. But you look at the athleticism, the intelligence, the toughness. He can sink his hips and play with good pad level from all positions. He's got enough range to execute any block in the playbook. The knock is that it comes from a lower level of competition, but watching it, Colorado, which is a Power 4 school, I thought that he held up very, very well. Then he goes to the Senior Bowl and he was lights out down there. So I look at Zabel as, again, one of the best players in this class. I mentioned that he's on that same tier as Booker, so I view him very similar. They're different players. I think that Booker will overwhelm you with power, whereas Zabel, he's a little bit more athletic. He's got more versatility for sure. He's one of my favorite players in this class as well.
Anything, Zach?
I'm deferring to Fran on Gray Zabel.
Okay.
I did not watch much North Dakota State. I did watch that North Dakota State Colorado game, but I think Fran's valuation carries more weight in a 1-hour show than mine.
Okay. Let's do the next two together. You tell me, let's compare and contrast these guys. So you've got Tate Ratledge, who you have graded pretty highly, Fran. 6'6.5", 308. This is a guy who has only played at right guard at Georgia, right?
For the most part, yep.
And so you're projecting versatility there. He's going to be 24 years old as a rookie. You've got him graded ahead of Donovan Jackson, who was 22 years old out of Ohio State. Just under 6'4", 315. He is mostly a guard. He filled in at left tackle for Josh Simmons down the stretch, and my understanding is sort of proved that he probably is a guard. But there's some upside there, and maybe more upside than Ratlidge. But why do you have Ratlidge ahead of Donovan Jackson?
I think that he's just a little cleaner. Their grades are very, very close.
Okay.
Yeah, like really, really close. And I'm just looking at how I have them stacked. So I think that Ratlidge is just a little cleaner from a technique standpoint, which, again, you might look at that with Donovan Jackson, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We can correct this, no problem. I think that his first step, surfacing with the offensive lineman next to him. What I mean by surfacing is imagine a double team block. Okay, so you got a defensive tackle between a guard and the left guard and a left tackle. And if those guys are going to double team that player, if the left guard, let's say, is too far outside and it takes up too much of the center of the defensive tackle's frame, well, now your left tackle, your teammate, he doesn't have anywhere to hit. So he ends up hitting you in the back of the shoulder. And now you don't have as much force going into that double team to get that movement, right? This is something that Jeff Stoutland coaches every single day. We saw you guys see them out there who are working on their timing and their placement on these double teams. That's something I look at with Jackson. Say that this is an area he's got to clean up. He's just a little bit messier there from that standpoint. That's the only area of red I have in his profile, though. I do like the player. I love the fact that he moved out the tackle, because that, to me, that's a selfless act. From what I understand, that was something where the coaches, they went to him before the switch and they said, look, this is risky for we don't want you to lose money moving forward. They went through what the implications could be for his draft status. You kick out the tackle and you don't look good, that could harm you moving forward. And talked about it with his family and said, I still want to move forward with this. Let's do it. This is best for the team. And so I love that aspect for Donovan Jackson. But just for me right now, when I look at the way that Tate looks, just a little bit cleaner. Now, the one area is that Tate Ratledge, he's had a history of foot injuries. Nothing like crazy, but just something to keep in mind there. I did miss some time. I think it was tightrope. Yeah, he had tightrope surgery this past fall, and that cost him a chunk of games right in the middle. Did fight his way back to be able to play down the stretch and in the playoff. But when you're looking at Tate Ratledge, guard only, has really only played on the right side. Like you mentioned, he played 5 snaps at left guard over the last 3 seasons. So you'd like to be able to prove that he's got that. But athletic, strong anchor, holds up against pass pro well, smart, fast eyes, recognizing stunts and twists, does a nice job of being able to reset his hands. I think that he does a nice job in pass protection. So I think when you're looking at Ratlidge, just a rock solid player. And Jackson, I agree. It's like same kind of deal. He's just got a little bit more proven versatility, just not as, to me, like not as athletic, not quite as gifted as Ratlidge, but he's also a good player.
Jackson strikes me as a bit of an Eagles type. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Jackson more among the two. I mean, first off, the recruiting background, like, he was a major recruit coming out of Texas when he went there. I mean, academic All-American, that's one of the things you always heard about Donovan Jackson is like being like the brains of that operation at Ohio State. And yeah, I heard actually the same things that Fran did.
What did he intern for?
He did not work for the Senate, I believe. But
he went to Episcopal High School. Zach, do you know which former Eagle went to Episcopal High School? Who was a former big time recruit coming out?
Which former Eagle was a big time recruit coming out? I do remember when he was coming out was the Brockermeyers were there, but which former recruit? No, who is it?
Defensive side was a part-time player. And like I like a deep roster cut. He was like an undrafted free agent coming out.
Okay.
Defensive
line. How long
ago? Within the last 6 years.
I mean, when you say it, I will get it, but I don't have it off my tongue here.
Give us the initials.
MW.
Milton Williams.
Oh no, not Milton Williams. Marvin Wilson.
Yes.
Marvin Wilson. Marv. Marv.
Good job.
What are you doing?
Good job.
What are you doing, Marv? That's right. Of course. Okay. Well, there you go. We'll move on. Jared Wilson. From Marvin Wilson to Jared Wilson. This is a player we talked about a little bit on the PHLY draft show with Fran Duffy. Yep. The Georgia center. And it's a tough one because centers you usually want a nice several years of starting experience. And Jared Wilson, just 1 year as a starter, but tested really well. Athletically, he looks the part. Size-wise, he looks the part. But it's a bit more of a projection than usual for a day 2 center, right, Fran?
Yeah, it's a little bit troubling when you've got the center that only has the 1 year of starting experience. That said, that's really the only knock I've got on Jared Wilson. I think that
especially because he's big enough to have also been a guard potentially before, right? Like if they were just trying to find a way to get him in the lineup, it's not like he's just center sized.
Yeah, I mean, you had Ratlidge there on one side. That's the thing is that Georgia constantly is like funneling offensive linemen in and out in terms of like on the roster. Like they're just constantly pumping guys into the league. And so, even this year, I mean, they had 4 guys at the combine, even though like outside of Wilson, like I don't think that the typical NFL draft fan was super, on the Dylan Fairchild and Xavier Truss film. I think you're just looking at a program that does such a good job of turning those guys out. Wilson is really gifted. He's strong. He's athletic. I don't think that the lack of experience shows up necessarily on film, but 12 career starts is 12 career starts. And that's just, I would expect hiccups early on if he is forced into the lineup. That's the only hole in the profile. But other than that, I mean, this is a guy that has the athleticism, but we know with Cam Jurgens, unlikely selection here in Philly.
Well said. Zach, you wanted to bring up that idea about what will the Eagles do at center now, knowing that Landon Dickerson, is capable and trusted to be the game day backup center, and probably if something serious happened to Jurgens, he would probably be the center. What is your line of questioning here?
Yeah, I'm curious. In this group we talk about today, which guards have that center flexibility? The Eagles drafted a center only player last year, as we documented well on the show, and they did not keep him. And I think one of the reasons that they did not keep him is because of the one position limitation.
Right.
I say limitation, but yeah, that if you're a backup, they want a backup who has versatility, right? And Landon Dickerson, I don't like the idea of moving your guard over to center. Which, look, the Eagles did it in the NFC Championship game this year. It worked. They did it at other points this year. But if Cam Jurgens goes down, I would rather keep Landon Dickerson where he is and have a guard who can move over to center. And I know Jeff Stoutland's philosophy is play your best five. In most cases, moving Landon Dickerson over and putting a guard in will be your best five rather than having a center, because Dickerson can be a high-level center. But I am curious if both of you think they'll try to address that guard center flex spot.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely possible. I mean, we didn't see, obviously, the two guys that they drafted on day 3 last year, one is gone and the other, is a question mark at this point in terms of what he's going to provide long term. I think when you're looking at this group in particular, in terms of who's got that ability to be that flex player, we talked about Zabel. I do think that he's got guard center flex. Ratlidge has not proven that. Wilson, I did forget that boat, that he did play some guard. It was that he never started, but he was the snaps he played. He played 67 snaps at guard in 2022, and he played 20 snaps at guard last season in 2023. So he's done it a little bit. And his size, I don't think would be prohibitive to play inside. He would be an undersized guard, but not like terribly undersized. Caleb Rodgers is a player from Texas Tech.
I'm curious about him.
Yeah. He's got 5 position flexibility. This is a player that played tackle for the large majority of his collegiate career. Right tackle, left tackle, right tackle, right tackle. Then he actually started 4 games at guard this past season. He is viewed as an interior lineman moving into the NFL, and he actually played some center in Mobile. Took some snaps down there, and so. Look, when I look at Rodgers, I think the thing that stands out most is that he's competitive. You love the versatility in the profile. Athletically, it's pretty well. I mean, he tested well.
Great short shuttle.
Yeah, the test numbers were really
yeah.
strong. Play strength, I think he can get a little. His anchor can definitely afford to get a little bit stronger. Technique wise, can get a little bit better. But a lot of his issues from a technique standpoint in the pass game were when he was playing tackle, and I think would get masked playing inside. And so I like the play personality. I like the tenacity. He was taking the fight to defenders. So I liked Caleb Rodgers as a swing backup type. Jonah Moanhime. Moanhime would be another one that's got some flexibility. Willie Lampkin has played some guard and center, but at that size is probably a center only. Drew Kendall, center only. Yeah, those would probably be the extent of the guys that have that flex.
Okay. I've heard good things about Moanhime. I mean, we'll get to that later, but he's someone who's
not.
Oh, okay. He's someone whose name.
I feel like we just did Caleb Rodgers and Jonah Moanhime, given the amount of guys we got to get through. But go
fair
ahead.
enough. No,
tell us.
Yeah, I mean, early on in this process, I asked around about like who were some later offensive linemen who should be on my radar, and Moanhime, because of the versatility, he's praised for the intelligence that he has. Like that's something that I know Jeff Stoutland values, especially when you get to day 3 or late day 2. Is are you able to pick up different spots? And that was always kind of the book on him at USC.
Yeah, and he's played left tackle, right guard, right tackle. This year moved over to center. So the 5 position flex is real for Moanhime.
All right, that's a good one. We'll get to some more good ones after this. A word from our sponsors. Zach confessed something to me before the show, which is that he did Ashley yesterday. Now it's my turn. And of course, we're talking about our friends at Ashley Furniture. The low prices are blooming in this beautiful spring, so you can spring into savings at Ashley. Huge deal. Listen to this. Save up to 50% off living rooms, bedrooms, and dining rooms, and as a bonus, have it all delivered for free. Plus, you can get long-term, no-interest financing, save on top brand mattresses, and get free delivery, setup, and removal. But don't wait. Hurry over to Ashley Furniture. Spring into savings now at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia. Financing with approved credit. Minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for complete details. Hurry to Ashley. Visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information.
So I was in Fort Washington this morning, and I get off the 309 exit there, and I look to my right, and I see the TrueMark Financial headquarters, and I know that TrueMark Financial Credit Union is local. It's right there, and everywhere I go, I see TrueMark Financial. Now, it did not feel like a spring day outside this morning, but at some point it will, and we know that means it's time to spring in the savings. We also know that April is Financial Literacy Month. And I want to tell everyone about Financial Literacy Month because it's especially important given everything that's going on right now. And TrueMark Financial can help you off the field, teaching your kids how to handle money. It's something that I discuss with my kids. If you're a TrueMark Financial member, you've got a fantastic opportunity to help your kids and teens learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. Now, Greenlight is not just any app. It's game-changing for your kids, whether they're setting saving goals, learning how to track their spending, or even getting their allowance. It's all right there at their fingertips. The kids will get their own debit card. They can make their own purchases, learn how to budget, build real-world money skills. This is very important given the time that we're in. So if you're looking for a way to teach your kids some financial plays this Financial Literacy Month, I can't recommend this enough. It's like training for life's biggest game. Head over to TrueMark.com/greenlight and get all the details to sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success.
Zach, I've been so focused on the draft, I'm not exactly picking up what you're putting down there. You mentioned it a couple of times. What is going on?
Well, there's a lot of volatility in the stock market right now. There's a lot of unrest about trade agreements and tariffs. And so, it's an important time to be financially literate. I would say that.
Got it. And what do Reed and Sloan think about the tariffs?
I did talk to them about every morning, Reed says what's going on in the world. And actually today wasn't, that's one thing we talked about, this helicopter crash that happened over the Hudson yesterday. We talked about the tariff situation. And so what do they think of it? They can just, I'm very down the middle and, generic. And I try to give real world examples about how it might affect whether it's, shoes that they might wear or trading cards, things like that. And then, small business owners, I know a lot of people who are small business owners. So I'll give a practical example.
Small is relative.
Yeah, true. It's typically termed in terms of the amount of employees that you have. So I basically kind of give a rundown of what's going on. And this week the news they're very perceptive because Reed asked Emily recently. He said, "Mom, I have a question," and this was when I was away, and he wanted to know how the Pope was doing. Okay, because one of the days I was reading the headlines and the Pope was ill, and so we were glad.
For him,
we're glad to report that the Pope was doing better. He keeps it all in his mind. So
that's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on with these interior offensive linemen. Let's frame it this way, Fran. I'm going to give you three guys. You tell me who you think is most Eagles, most Jeff Stoutland. So let's work our way down. We're going Myles Frazier from LSU, 24 years old, 4-position flexibility based on where he played at LSU, 6'5.5", 317, kind of short arms and small hands, ran very slow at the combine, but that's not what you're asking for from him. That's number one. Number two, Jackson Slater, a fun player from Sacramento State. We love that. DeAndre Carter's alma mater, 22 years old, 6'2.5", 320, and big hands. Probably needs to stay inside for sure. And then let's go Wyatt Milum from West Virginia, who Brandon Thorne name-checked yesterday as a guy who basically was in such a run-first offense that it's hard to even evaluate him as a pass setter. 22 years old, 6'6", 313. Who of those three do you think is most Eaglesy?
I would probably stack it in the order that you laid out. It's very close to me between Frazier and Slater. Frazier, I think with his proven versatility, I think that's really important. He's the local guy from Camden. But I think when you're looking at, he went to Eastside High School, by the way. Myles Frazier, shorter arms maybe, but it's actually funny. I was talking
going to Donkeys and getting that Donkeys cheesesteak has been on my list of things to do for like 8 years, and I still haven't gotten it done. I got to make that happen.
One day you'll get there.
One day.
I was talking with a scout for another team, and it was very similar to the Deion Walker quote, where it was, actually, let me pull it up really quick. And we were just going through Myles Frazier, and he was like, honestly, like he wouldn't fit for us, but for a team like Philly that likes bigger, sturdier guards, I think he would fit better. So, I think that there's that viewpoint about Myles Frazier. To me, I like Slater a little bit more in terms of like physical talent. He's got really short arms, 32 inches, which is still short even for an interior player. He's played some center. He played some left tackle early in his career at Sacramento State, but he'll definitely be an interior guy moving forward. He's more athletic. So I think the freakier traits kind of show up a little bit more with Slater than with Frazier. So that I think that could be more appealing. But I just feel like that proven flexibility, that 4-position flex, I think might be more important for Frazier in the long run.
A quick Frazier anecdote, if I can just mix this in. I was at that LSU game.
Like tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
So that LSU game's giving me a lot of content. I need to find a college game every year to go to. But I was in that press box, and I was sitting next to a few scouts, and I'm trying to, kind of show my bona fides here, trying to seem like I belong. And
hey, you guys hear about Rock Sanders?
Rocket Sanders. South Carolina did not play in that game. No, and I said to them, I said, I'm real excited to watch Will Campbell and Emery Jones in person. That's what I said. And they're like, you're going to want to watch this Myles Frazier guy. They're like, he's from Camden. And so I
watched that's like a little press box convo.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when Myles Frazier came onto my radar. Was that game?
He had his film wasn't great in 2023. Was regarded one scout actually said that he was one of the most improved players in the region in Southeast this past year.
No, okay, I like that. Do we need to do Willie again?
No, I think we covered it. We've
talked about it. Yeah, we like a Willie Lampkin. All right, so there's 3 guys here at the end of the list. Tell me who you want to talk about most: Luke Kandra, Seth McLaughlin, and Garrett Dellinger.
So I did Kandra yesterday.
Just grading based off the names, just name scouting. I'm out on all of them.
Yeah, I mean, all of them. The one guy I would say, like, you didn't mention him just now, but I have him ahead of that grouping would be Drew Kendall from BC.
I didn't. I missed Drew Kendall. Yeah.
Yeah. Drew Kendall would be another one but I honestly, all 4 of them are on the same tier. But I just have Kendall at the top of that tier. He's a backup center only. Kandra is a backup guard only. McLaughlin, backup center. Dellinger, backup guard. So we're talking like single position, physical limitations, backup only. And that's kind of why these guys are all in the same bucket. I like Kendall the most. I think that he's smart. He's experienced. Got 37 starts at center. His dad, Pete Kendall, played in the league for a long time. Former first-round pick in Seattle. Ended up, I think he's finished his career with Washington, actually. But technique was pretty good. I wasn't blown away by like the overall athleticism or power. But if you need a backup center, I think you could do worse with Drew Kendall.
All right, since we have exhausted these guys, I actually did want to circle back on 2 guys who we very briefly touched on with Brandon yesterday, and who I think are possibilities for the Eagles in the first 2 rounds. And that's Ariante Ersery, who you mentioned earlier today. And then more specifically, Jonas Abinayea from Arizona, who we did not really get into. What type of player is he?
Jonas Abinayea he's played 3 of the 5 positions and started at 3 of the 5 positions. Actually kicked out to left tackle this year for the first time for a chunk of the year. But he's a guard all day. I think that is definitely his best position in the NFL.
6'4", 324.
Yep, that looks like a guard. I think that when you're looking at him, he had first round buzz coming into the year. He was in a lot of the too early mock drafts. I'm gonna be honest. When I did him in the summer, I wasn't moved to the point where I felt like he would be that level of player. My grade really hasn't changed from last year to this year. I do view him as a solid starter, but probably not more than that. I liked the flexibility, or I like the position flexibility. I like the play strength and the anchor. That's why I feel good about his ability to stick at guard. But I thought the feet were just okay. I think his technique can get better in the run game. He tested very well for a guy that big, for 320 pounds. He ran 4.95, which is outstanding. 1.72 in the 10-yard split, impressive. So he showed off some explosiveness there. But to me, I think he's just a solid guard at the end of the day.
And then Ersery is a player who you are relatively high on, compared to consensus.
Yep, I think that with Ersery, he's still little like moldable ball of clay-ish. If he is forced into the starting lineup early, I do think that there could be some rough patches. I don't think that he's a finished product, but when I look at 6'6", 330 with his explosiveness, to me, like guys like that, even if he doesn't hit his ceiling, even if he hits like the median outcome, I think that he's a $15 million a year tackle. Like there are just, when I look around the league, I see tackles that are that big, that explosive, where the heavy-handed punch in the run game can move people and, maybe are inconsistent in pass pro. Those guys get paid, and they get paid big money. Like Dan Moore is similar in ways to Ariante Ersery. Dan Moore went in the 3rd round. Ersery, potentially, like the earliest I could see him going would be like Kansas City at 31. That the earliest, and so I think you're probably seeing more of a day 2 player. And I think when you're looking at him, not a finished product, but a player that does have the ability to be able to kick inside. He's got pretty short arms for a tackle, and I think he is built to be able to handle the interior rigors of playing in the league, but has been largely a tackle by trade. I just feel like he's got sticking power with his skill set.
And then what happened to my guy Emery Jones? Like why is there late day 2, day 3 buzz now, when going into the season this guy was supposed to be a 1st-round pick?
Yeah, I think that was just honestly like media kind of fluffing him up that way. I honestly very similar to Abinayea. I believe I had them right next to each other coming into the year, where I saw Jones as more of like your solid starter type, as opposed to as opposed to like quality, like, oh yeah, franchise or right tackle type of situation. I think that he's got the bully mentality in the trenches. I like his power. I actually think he'd be a decent fit here in Philadelphia, just because he's got the power to be able to move people, especially if you do transition him to guard. He's young. He would make some sense for them on day 2. For a guy that could compete at guard. Athletically, I would say he's average. I wouldn't say that he's like a liability. He would be a liability at tackle. I think his feet quickness is a little bit of a concern, especially because that's when his technique honestly like goes to crap when he's stressed athletically. When he feels like he's got to try and really get to the corner against a speed rusher, that's when everything kind of goes awry. But he's an aggressive player. He competes. I liked the player. I just didn't, I think that everybody was a little too high on him. Now everybody's probably beating him up too much. And now I'm like, all right, he's still a good player at what he does.
Got it. Anybody else that you like, Zach?
I was just gonna mention Moanhime as a name that was on my radar. We hit on him, and I wanted to ask about Emery Jones because I had Vince. Shout out to Vince. He wanted a mock draft back before the season. And Emery Jones was my 1st rounder there. And,
Dastardly.
And
he was your 1st rounder? Oh no.
Yeah. So you hate to see it when your 1st rounder is now going to the 4th round, and you're like, you go for the upside right tackle on the you have the line in there when everyone's paying attention to Will Campbell. Watch the guy on the right side, Emery Jones Jr. I think University Lab High School, which is like a big program in Baton Rouge, it's where Glenn Davis went. If you recall, Big Baby. And it was a big deal when he stayed in Baton Rouge to go to LSU. Started right away. There was a lot of excitement about him, and so. So you kind of hate to see that when that.
Did it do numbers anyway, or what?
It did actually. Yeah, that was a good, look.
Well, there you go.
You get mock draft out there in July, you're rolling, man. And then shout out to
July.
It was in July, yeah. And then shout out to Devin Jackson. Devin Jackson came on the show with me. We had Abdul Carter.
That's right.
We had Abdul Carter as the thumbnail that day, and I'm saying this guy might be the number 1 pick in the draft. And I thought it might be hyperbole, so I got that one right? But he's not gonna be number 1. But he won't be far away from there. Number 3, Number 3 to the New York Giants. He's there today, I
Wait
believe.
a second. The other day on the PHLY draft show, Fran, you said he's going to go number 2.
Well, I said that would be Andrew Berry's prerogative.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I guess we know who runs that team.
Yeah,
Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we have reached overtime. Yeah. Let's get into the super chats. Here we go. Shay has a situation. I've been semi-following it in the chat. He says, I have a third date with a girl I recently met tonight, but Bean Girl is coming to visit me next month. Do I wait for the Bean Dream or move forward here? Now, for the uninitiated, Bean Girl is a long-time friend of Shay, who I believe was dating someone else, recently got back on the market. Shay has had feelings for Bean Girl for a while. They touched the bean together. Not going to go any further into what that means, but they don't live in the same place. So, Zach, Fran, should Shay go? I mean, the timing here is I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, Shay, but he's having his third date with a girl he recently met. Does he need to spill the beans? Or can he slow play it and wait and see how things are going until Bean Girl comes next month?
Fran, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from experience in similar kind of dynamics there, if there is nothing that is like there's nothing established with Bean, then I think you're good to move forward and see this out with the person that you're dating tonight. So I would say you're good to move forward. If you do want to mention it to the Bean Dream, then I think that's I think you can kind of play that out and see if that works. But I don't think there's anything that's keeping you from going on this date tonight.
Yeah, I would just say, if you're fortunate enough to get the third date, you don't want to miss the third date. Okay, so take advantage of the third date.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm certainly honesty is the best policy, but I don't think if you come in hot on the third date, like, hey, by the way, like, I have a longtime friend who I actually like love.
No,
what are we doing here? She's going to be scared off. She might call the police. Also, like, I think honestly that the situation here, Shay, is you and Bean Girl need to have a conversation. Like, what's going on? That's because that's what you care about, right? I don't think you need to lose sight of third date girl just in hoping that Bean Girl is going to come around one day. You know,
I agree with that. Yeah, you got to have the conversation and then see where everything stands. Hanging in the wind.
He says, okay. Well, he says they're going to have the conversation next month. Okay, so until next month, let's enjoy our time with third date girl. Let's hopefully we get to fifth date girl, and then who knows?
Go to Chicago and touch a bean.
Yeah. All right. I think we have another super chat from CDP. He says, "Why do Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, and Kevin Stefanski get labeled as offensive geniuses when they are total losers who will never win a Super Bowl?"
Dane is CDP this whole time?
So all the circumstances here are different. Like, Kyle Shanahan has been to 3 Super Bowls here, or 3 Super Bowls, right? He's been close, but he is a really good offensive coach. Mike McDaniel, he's a really good offensive coach in September and October. It kind of fades thereafter.
Wow, that's as hard as you're ever going to come after a head coach.
No, I mean, just his teams have faded in December, and I don't know if it's him or if it's just the roster, but there's a lot that must be proven now. He's had some bad injury luck too. You can say maybe that something to do with the system. Who knows? Stefanski was undone by his quarterback, right? I mean, he got to the playoffs with he did well with Mayfield. He did well with Flacco. I think the quarterback was the problem there, and now we'll see this year. Although I got to say, Kevin, I know you're from the Philly area and you went to Penn, but you don't just have to stockpile Philly native or Philly area quarterbacks, right?
I know. Who's he signing next? Sudfeld or Josh McCown?
Well, no, neither one's from Philly, right? He's probably getting Matt Ryan out of retirement and having like Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, and Kenny Pickett all in that same room. And
yeah, but he's just getting Eagles backup quarterbacks.
they can get, they can all get cheesesteaks in there, right? So
they'll draft Kyle McCord in 2 weeks.
There you go.
Cheesesteaks. We know Pickett's not getting a cheesesteak.
Pickett's not getting a cheesesteak? Oh, he's getting a vodka wrap. Yeah, from Gianni's. That's true.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm going to have some chicken parm and pasta tonight. It's going to be a good dinner.
Nice. Who's cooking?
Emily. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. How did your speaking engagements go yesterday?
Oh, went great. Really enjoyed it. I was fortunate to be there with Mike Sealski, and I learned a lot from Mike and from the crowd, and I spoke to a high school class today. That was awesome. They had great questions. I had questions for them, and it's amazing how they consume content and where they consume content.
What was the answer?
We went around the room, everyone, so a lot of TikTok, Instagram, and not as many. There was one kid who went with New York Times, an economist in there. That was good.
Really?
Yeah, I respect that.
Was it Reed?
But yeah, no, it was very no. There were a few New York Times in there, but yeah, it shows. I always say you have to meet the audience where they are, and there's a big audience on Instagram and TikTok, and I got to capitalize on that.
And what did you make of the big news that you missed yesterday?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm sorry I missed it. Thanks to you and Jamie and Julia for doing the show. There was like 130 people at the speaking engagement last night. If you were there, I'm not making this up. I brought up Terrace. Eagles just signed Terrace Marshall Jr. and we're doing a show right now, and I'm missing it. Right, like I was. It was vexing me. What I think of it, I'm not going to overstate this. Terrace Marshall Jr. Now I did like him coming out, but he was the big slot. I thought he could be a big slot in the NFL. And
we got a Francis in the house.
Oh yeah, spring break started already.
I know. I imagine that the listeners have been able to hear some commotion upstairs.
I think though it's been like the league has spoken here, and it's one he had a decent year in 22 was
year
it?
2,
yeah. He was available for the rest of the league last year. He's kind of played with a bunch of different quarterbacks, but to me he's still 24 years old. He's probably on the outside looking in for the roster right now. If you can tap into some untapped potential, fine, but I think more reasonably than not, this is signing Ruben Randall or something like that. Like you have to kind of keep your expectations in check. And am I typecasting him as an LSU second round pick by saying Ruben Randall? Maybe so. But you're not getting, he's had 4 years in the NFL. That far outweighs the draft evaluation at this point.
It's just another data, but it's another data point on they're just keep adding these guys who are first and second round draft picks.
Yes.
Which is probably something worth asking Howie about if we speak to him before the draft. I like the comment from CDP, Fran, that given your reaction to seeing Francis, he must have been watching Shamar Stewart film.
No, it was
Would you put off that Ozzie Trapilo tape?
We haven't watched Shamar Stewart. We watched Armand Membu together, or a few other guys.
Oh,
but, yeah.
What's he think?
He liked the Membu.
Membu?
I think I said the story. I think I forget if I told you guys, or maybe I said somewhere else. We were watching Armand Membu, and he pointed to he was like, we're watching. And I'm like, oh, what do you see? That kind of thing. And he points. He's like, yeah, but Daddy, who's that guy? And he points to a defensive lineman on the other side, and it was Nick Scorton. I was like, wow. I was like, good.
Really?
Good eye.
Nice.
I was very proud.
You're training him well. I respect that.
We should actually, you know what? Let's circle back there because they brought him in for a visit yesterday. We've done edges already, but Scourton is a specific type of player. Why do you think that he would make sense for the Eagles, Fran?
I mean, I like Scourton, and I think that he would make sense for them because of the violence that he plays with. I think he can play the run and get after the quarterback. I think that you just have to kind of disentangle the differences between 2023 and 2024. In 2023, led the Big Ten in sacks.
All this weight gain.
He puts on weight purposely. It wasn't like bad. It was bad weight. Like, it didn't look great on him, but he put on weight like with a purpose to try and get better against the run and more consistent against the run. Whether that was his idea or Texas A&M's idea, I'm hearing differing opinions on that. But when you're looking at Scourton, he gets back down to 265. I mean, that picture he posted with BG yesterday, he looked awesome. So I think that at the end of the day, this is a player I think can be a starter in the NFL. So I like Nick Scourton more than consensus.
Brandon Graham comps. Do you see that?
Yeah, he's a little bit. I think he's a little bit bigger, broader. But I think in terms of like overall tier of player, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Have to smell his gas to know for sure.
Yeah, if he's quite there.
But he's someone that Bo would approve of. 20 years old right now, right? Yes. I think is he the youngest guy in the draft, or
he's up there. He's up there. Yes. A little bit older than Terrace Marshall was coming out of LSU.
But what's interesting about that is, as you think about it, it doesn't always equate to when they come into the league, right? Because you have a situation which I was actually unsure about this until I saw Zach Berman tweeting about it, really breaking this story down for the people who hadn't been paying attention, that actually it's odd. Kelee Ringo, who has been on the Eagles for 2 years, is somehow younger, an entire year younger than Quinyon Mitchell, who was on the team just this 1 year. Curious.
And he's younger than Fran's least favorite player in this draft, which is Jahdae Barron. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, think about that, though, that like Kelee Ringo is entering year 3 and is younger than a potential first-round pick.
Just think how productive Kelee Ringo could have been if he caught 3 tip ball passes, 3 tip ball interceptions.
But speaking about Kelee Ringo and corners, I did have another thought today, and I've been harping on this. This is a point I've belabored, but I will continue belaboring it because we have the questions about Cooper DeJean, where he should play. And look, I mean, Vic Fangio, he spoke to John Clark about where he wants him to play. Vic Fangio wants him to play in the slot. He's really good there. If you're Cooper DeJean's agent, I imagine you're seeing what the Houston Texans did this offseason, which is Stingley became the highest paid corner in the NFL. Okay, 3 years, $90 million. And they signed today Jalen Petrie made him the highest paid slot in the NFL, 3 years, $39 million, right? We talk about like the difference in value that the NFL has on the guy on the outside and the guy on the inside. The Houston Texans have shown that with their resources this year. So not to say Cooper DeJean would be as good as Stingley on the outside, but the delta in value between having a starter on a rookie contract, who's a high level player, and then what that guy would cost on the open market is so significant. And it's why I think eventually, if Cooper DeJean can play on the outside, he will.
I think you're probably right. It behooves him.
Yeah.
Behoove, belabor, all the good stuff. All the bees. Beehive. Okay. I think that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We are back Monday, 2:00. We'll be there all week. And of course, remember, we've got the JD McGillicuddy's event on Thursday night, the Draft Summit. Come out and join us. Become a diehard, all that good stuff. Like the comment. No. Comment below, then like your own comment, and then like the video, and then like every other comment in the comment section. And then comment that you appreciate Julia for cycling through all those graphics at the end. Nice job, Julia. Okay. Thanks, guys. Good conversation.
Thank you.
Good luck to Shay. Yep. Let's take, you know what? We've gone vegetarian. Let's take a break. Let's put the beans to the side for just a couple weeks and then circle back. See what our constitution is feeling like, okay?
Enjoy that third date, man.
An HZ under the wire showing up on a Friday at 3:15. Ladies and gentlemen, HZ has entered the chat.
No, I'm just saying, enjoy that third date. That's all it is. Enjoy the third date. It's another opportunity to spend time with somebody. That's all I am saying.
I don't believe you.
I don't know where your head's going. I'm just telling you, enjoy the third date. So,
wow. Fireworks at the end. Fantastic. All right. Well, on behalf of Julia and Fran and HZ, I'm Bo. We thank you for watching and listening. We will talk to you on Monday. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.